This session is part of a webinar series which aims to assist researchers, librarians, and institutions in the adoption of digital tools and persistent identifiers for a significant increase of research discoverability globally and to increase efficiency in scholarly workflows.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, maybe, depending on where you're joining us from. Like I said, thank you so much for being here. And the talk today is packed with a lot of promise. I think you'll be able to appreciate that once we start. If this is your first time joining us, you're welcome to the Africa Archive Open Science webinar series. This is a series which is co-organized by Open Internet Alliance and Access to Perspectives under the ORCID Global Participation Program. So the aim of the series is quite straightforward. It is to empower African researchers, librarians, and institutions as well by providing valuable insights into adopting digital tools and persistent identifiers. Yeah, the primary goals are to significantly enhance the discoverability of African research on a global scale and streamline scholarly workflows for increased efficiency. We hope that this goal will be achieved by the end of this webinar. We have adopted an approach that is similar to pretty much best practice sharing by featuring professionals from various regions and organizations and also research studies for them to share their experience throughout the series on their use of some tools and also the impact that persistent identifiers have had on their work. I think this year alone, we've had about 17 webinars in the series, and you can access them via the resources that will be shared in the chat. I think my colleague Ebuka will share some resources in the chat that you can use to access all the recordings that are there, and also the slides are shared after the meetings. So yeah, rest assured, all the resources from this meeting will be shared. Today, we are joined by our colleagues who recently released the EIFL. Perhaps they'll be able to talk about that in a better way than I can introduce it now. But they recently released the EIFL landscape study of no-fee open access publishing in Africa. We have quite a large group of presenters, but then rest assured we're going to remain within the time allocated. The group is led by Iryna Kuchma. They will take us through open access journals in Africa that do not charge fees for their authors or readers. These are often referred to as Diamond OA journals. We have quite a list of presenters, like I said, and I will really get the honor of introducing them to Iryna, who is pretty much going to take over from this point. But before I pass to her, like I said, I assure you that the proceedings will be shared to you via our YouTube channels and also via our mailing list. We have all your emails via the registration. We allocated 1 hour and 30 minutes. However, we do hope that we'll be able to finish within that specific period of time. Feel free to use the chat and also feel free to use the Q&A section. We'll be able to address all questions at the end of the webinar series. Yeah, I think with that being said, allow me to pass on to Iryna, and yeah, she'll take us from here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Harold, and it's a great pleasure to be here with my colleagues, Milica, Blessing, Richard, Ina, and also others who contributed to this report. I hope you can see my slides, and I hope you can see them advancing. This is a document that we would like to discuss today, and I will provide a little bit of context why we released this document, show some highlights that I think are important for today's discussion. I also invite you to dig deeper because there is much more in this document than we can discuss in an hour and a half. And then after my talk, Blessing, Richard, and Ina will present the country case studies from Zimbabwe, Ghana, and South Africa. And maybe we'll have some more country case studies. Let's see how the timing and discussion goes. To start a story, in November, EIFL, AGIL, African Journals Online, and WACRAN, West and Central Africa Research and Education Network, which is a sister organization to Ubuntu Net Alliance, started a project which is called Collaboration for Sustainable Open Access Publishing in Africa. And for us, sustainable open access publishing is a publishing that is conducted by African public institutions, universities, research institutes, scholarly societies, associations. And we also believe that if no fees are charged for open access publishing, neither from authors nor from readers, then it's really sustainable. So that's the focus of our activities, how together we could support no-fee open access publishing from Africa in Africa. And this project is supported by Wellcome. We have funding to support quality and sustainability of no-fee open access journals in Africa. And we wanted to understand a little bit better how many such journals are, what their issues, what their funding needs. And we conducted what we called a consultation, where we released a survey with a set of questions. And for that survey, we reused questionnaires from Diama's project in Europe. And we are really grateful to over 200 journals that responded to our consultation, and also a lot of portals that host Diamond Open Access journals in Africa. We also asked experts in over 20 countries to write country reports, how they see no-fee open access publishing happening in their countries, what the needs, challenges are, and how we could support that publishing as a project. And highlights from those country reports are also included in the document that I'm showing now. This document exists as a PDF, and it also exists as an online version. And in this online version, we only have some highlights. So I also do encourage you to check the full PDF. But here online, you can see summary of findings, methodologies that we used, then overview of Diamond Open Access journals, including the current funding and sustainability approaches, what kind of institutional support they receive, and whether there are any institutional incentives, what kind of collaboration among Diamond Open Access journals is already happening, or would journals like to happen. Then we have sections about editorial quality and research integrity, publication ethics in those journals. Unfortunately, I won't have time today to highlight that, but I can only say that those journals are really strong scholarly journals. Then we have a section about technical services efficiency and needs, visibility and discoverability, including challenges, and then overall challenges and what kind of support would make these journals more sustainable. And similarly, we have a section around platforms that host Diamond Open Access journals. Some platforms host only Diamond journals. Some platforms host no-fee journals, and also journals that charge article processing charges. We also have a section where we provide some highlights, what are these platforms that participated in our consultation, how they work, whether there are any incentives to the staff running those platforms in their institutions, how they are funded now, how they are supported in their institutions, what are sustainability issues, challenges are, what ongoing collaborations, again, technical services efficiency, visibility and discoverability, and challenges and unmet funding needs. So all that you can see in our report. And a large section of it contains country overviews, how no-fee journals are published in the countries. And I would like to thank everyone who contributed with their country reports. And country reports are not in the online version, they're only in the PDF because we didn't find a way to integrate them easily, because there are many of them and they also cover different perspectives. So if you're interested in country reports, please read the full document. So what we identified, and I should say that these findings are really limited to 199 journal responses. And among those journals who participated in our consultation, we could say that they are relatively small in terms of the annual output of journal articles published. Majority of them published up to 20 articles last year. Some of them have staff which is fully or partially employed, but unfortunately many of them rely on volunteer work, and we believe that it's not fair, it's not sustainable, and we hope we could change that together and make sure that people are really paid for the valuable work that they are doing. Almost half of journals have institutional funding provided, which is a good news. And again, we would like to make sure that there are as many Diamond Open Access journals in Africa as possible have this kind of institutional funding. And we also included some other sources of funding that journals that don't charge any fees to authors use to publish them. And then in terms of sustainability, it was interesting that 40% said that they consider the operation sustainable and then and stable, and almost 40 said that it's actually unstable or very unstable. So we can see that there are really different stages in which journals are in terms of sustainability. We asked what kind of support these journals already receive from their institutions, and usually it's support around general IT services, also in some cases specific support to run journal publishing platforms, for example. Then they also have facilities in institutions, offices. And it was also interesting to see that almost a quarter said that they do have some incentives as journal editors. For example, they get additional points during their annual evaluation promotion. Some of them have allowances, some of them receive honoraria from their institutions, some of them get reductions in regular work hours, and also are allowed to have less administrative work. And we believe that these incentives are also important and should be introduced in as many universities as possible. It was very encouraging to see that more than 3/4 of those journals that participated in our survey would consider collaborations. And collaborations include around shared editorial services, shared production services, IT services, communication services, and also administrative, legal, financial services, and training, support, and advice on publishing policies and practices. This is really encouraging, and I hope that we will see many more collaborations among Diamond Open Access journals in Africa happening. We also asked what are the challenges that Diamond Open Access journals in Africa face, and financial constraints was the major challenge, but there are also other challenges that you see listed on this slide. And again, I hope that our project will help to solve some of them. We also asked what kind of support would make these journals more sustainable. And here you can see a summary of responses in our report. In the PDF version, there are also exact quotes, what journal editors said they would like to see, but overall they would like to have more permanent funding. They would like to have more human resources to run a journal, more incentives in terms of reduction of lecturing workload and PhD supervision. Also support programs for editorial boards, more engagement with reviewers, more institutional collaborations, and then support for journal hosting, language editing, typesetting, and administration. They also mentioned a number of areas where technical support would help, as well as facilities, and also what kind of support would make these journals more interoperable. And you see it ranges from equipment to connectivity to specific services around hosting journals, and also making sure that those journals have persistent identifiers and are preserved long term. A range of visibility and indexation challenges were also mentioned that would help the journals, starting from developing a strategy to promote the journal, supporting indexing, and then stronger advocacy in Africa around no-fee African journals, better understanding of this model, publishing from universities, research institutes, research funders, governments, and everyone else, and then support structures that would help these journals publish. And we're happy to see a lot of ideas around knowledge sharing and support. And I think almost everything that is listed on this slide around capacity building, training, could be done together, and we will be doing it in the coming years, and we'll be happy to collaborate with everyone interested. Briefly about the platforms, they were different in terms of types of platforms. So most of them were institutional platforms to publish institutional journals, open access journals. One of them was disciplinary, 4 of them were national platforms, and then 3 platforms were continental, and EIFL is the largest continental platform that hosts Diamond Open Access journals. We also were happy to see that platforms would like to collaborate around shared journal production services, IT services, communications, administrative, legal, financial training and support. And there was an interesting note about collaborations around producing XML files. And maybe that's an area to focus. And then challenges of journal platforms are quite similar to challenges of journals, that they also have financial constraints, staff issues. They would benefit from more advocacy and more support from the institutions and also the countries and platforms will also be strengthened if journals will be strengthened that are hosted on those platforms. We used all those fundings to draft a call for funding to support Diamond Open Access journals and also portals that host Diamond Open Access journals. And we received 70 project proposals. We would like to thank everyone who submitted their proposals. We are reviewing them and we hope to support many of them. And we will also repeat a similar call next year. And one more area we will be looking at in this project together with EIFL, how we can support journals that charge small fee now, small article processing charges, how we can help them stop charging that amount and become more sustainable without charging publishing fees. So if you're interested, you can have a look at the call conditions, because most likely we'll repeat almost everything we have now next year. So you can check whether your journal will be eligible for support, and if there are some areas that still need improvements, you could use some time to improve your journal, and we would like to collaborate with everyone who is interested. And now I would like to invite my colleague Blessing Chiparausha from Pindura University of Science Education in Zimbabwe, and he will share his country case study. We will also have a talk from Richard Lanty from ANUST in Ghana and Ina Smith from Academy of Sciences in South Africa. So over to you, Blessing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Iryna, and good day, everyone. Thank you very much for this opportunity to share briefly about the experiences from Zimbabwe. I'm happy that some of the issues have already been mentioned, so it has made my task a bit easier, but I will briefly run through my presentation. I hope you can see my slides there.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'd like to begin by pointing out that out of the various journals that we have here in Zimbabwe, if you are to check from the report, 17 of these meet the open access, Diamond Open Access publishing requirements. And nearly all the journals that were identified are owned or managed by universities, except a very few. I would like to point out that in terms of journal publishing in general in Zimbabwe, most of the journals are affiliated to the 20 universities that we have in Zimbabwe. In fact, nearly every university has at least one or two journals that they publish, but of course, on different platforms and on different avenues, some are being on open access, like I've said. I would also want to highlight on some operational issues that came out from the responses that were there. To begin with, we focused on the software used, and it was observed that nearly all the journals that are there use the online journal systems as software, except one institution that was actually using ordinary word processing and so on. And with regards to the hosting services, mostly the journals are cloud-based, and most of these are dependent on the African Journals Online platform, which has been indicated earlier on that it hosts the majority of the journals in Africa. But I would also want to point out that the University of Cape Town's Continental platform, which they are working with together with the Association of African Universities, is also being used, and a few or isolated cases being hosted on that platform rather. And as had been said earlier on, with regards to staffing, it's predominantly volunteer work, and this work is done as part of other duties by editorial teams, the peer reviewers, and so on. And then we also had interest in seeing how the peer review process is carried out. And I'm happy to report that in the case of Zimbabwe, nearly all the journals have got double-blind peer review. And then, of course, one or two cases where we had open, but double peer review. But basically, all the journals in Zimbabwe undergo peer review as well. And then we also wanted to find out if the journals are in any way using persistent identifiers. It is pleasing to note that all the journals have got international standard numbers, SSN there, but unfortunately, in terms of use of digital object identifiers, only 4 of the case study journals sign DOIs for the journal articles that they publish, which is quite a low figure there. And I would like to point out that there is a lot of work to ensure that PIDs are well adopted, but in particular, there is need to ensure that DOIs are taken on board, because they are very, very important when it comes to identification, sharing, and sharing of research output. Then I went on to find out with regards to financial sustainability. And like I have indicated earlier on, most of the journals, apart from the limited funding that is available, most of the journals depend on volunteers, and these volunteers are actually paid as part of other duties that they do. And then this is actually community work or community engagement. And again, for most of the journals, they are not clearly spelled out budgets, which is again is a shortcoming there. But I would also want to point out that Council of Zimbabwe has in the past provided small grants, especially for purposes of starting up new journals and in cases where the journals are struggling. But I would like to point out that such financial support has not been sufficient. More is expected, actually. And we sought to find out from the participants what are some of the steps that they believe could be useful in ensuring that the uptake of Diamond Open Access Publishing goes up. The first observation was that there is a terrible misconception with regards to open access in general. If you
Is it my connection, or did we lose Blessing?
Actually, I thought it was my connection. I think it is his now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, apologies about that. So let's maybe give a minute to Blessing to reconnect. But I think you can read from his slides. There are areas to focus on, such as advocating for more open access publishing, capacity building and more support from government and institutional leaders. Are you back, Blessing? Apologies.
It's gone again.
Yeah. Then maybe I can invite Richard Lemty from. Oh, maybe Blessing is showing in. Sorry, Richard. Let's maybe give 1 more minute to Blessing. You're muted, Blessing. So please unmute yourself.
All right, my apologies. I had lost connection. I don't know what had happened, but allow me to continue.
Yes, please. Thank you. So I think we lost you when you were saying that there are terrible misperceptions of open access, and then we lost you. Please carry on.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so like I was saying, there's need to clarify and come up with a clear demarcation between credible open access journals and those that may be open access but are predatory. And then, of course, issues to do with capacity came out very clearly that the editors, the librarians, and the peer reviewers also need training to ensure that they perform their duties properly. And then another challenge that is there with regards to the journals that are in Zimbabwe is that there is lack of proper global representation in the editorial boards and even for the boards of peer reviewers and even authorship in those journals. So there's also need to ensure that there is proper representation across the globe. And then there was also an indication mostly from the librarians that they believe that the concept where the library is considered to be a library as a publisher is embraced seriously, because librarians can assist, especially in issues to do with how the work can be done properly and how we can also avoid predatory publishing. And then lastly, there were indications that there is need to work hand in glove with the regulatory authorities to weed out predatory publishers and predatory journals, and again to ensure that regulatory bodies can come in and raise their voice in terms of supporting diamond open access journals, because there has been a misconception that if you publish in diamond open access journals, you are publishing in low quality platforms. So in this case, the Zimbabwe Council for Higher Education can come in handy. And fortunately, it has already done so beginning June this year. The Council for Higher Education in Zimbabwe has started accrediting journals, both the ones that are on open access and the ones that are on closed access. So that issue has been addressed. And then I also picked some immediate needs that are there with regards to the diamond open access ecosystem in Zimbabwe. Like I've indicated earlier on, training is a high priority area, especially for editorial teams. And then issues to do with awareness and demystifying the misconceptions among authors, readers, and of course, policymakers is also important, because like for the third stakeholder who are the policymakers, there have been some tendencies where some policymakers also misconceive open access to say it's low quality or poor quality, or sometimes they believe that if you put coding on open access, you lose your intellectual property rights, which is not correct anyway. And then issues to do with funding, I cannot overemphasize that there is need to ensure that funding is also made available, especially for those journals that are hosted locally. Most of these are actually grappling with issues to do with appropriate servers, issues to do with good connectivity, 24/7 access, among other things. And then lastly, one of the immediate needs there relates to benchmarking. There is need for the local diamond open access publishers to ensure that whatever they are doing, they benchmark with others beyond the borders, beyond Africa, in fact, at a global level, so that they can competitively be viewed out there, and again, they can be accepted globally without reservations. I think in short, that's what I will highlight. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Blessing. It was excellent. Thank you. perhaps you can stop sharing, and I'll invite Richard Lemty from KNUST in Ghana to present a Ghanaian case study. Thank you, Richard. Over to you.
Thank you very much. Honestly, I had a lot of things going, and the notice was very short for me. So, to be frank with you, it was very difficult for me to do any PowerPoint presentation. But I'm just going to do a few things that we found in our study. So I'm going to look at just 3 things: the overview, the state of it, the Diamond OA, or the state of journal publishing in Ghana, and then what can be done. So the Consortium of Academic and Research Library has done a lot of these. I hope you can hear me, please.
Yes, we can hear you well.
Yeah. So the Consortium of Academic and Research Libraries in Ghana have done quite a lot of training, awareness, capacity building, collaborating with the AJO, collaborating with the Research for Life, other like INASP and all that. You've done quite a lot of things on the OA publishing in Ghana. We have over 100 journals. However, these 100 journals, just few of them are more into the OA. Properly, I mean, doing the OA Diamond OA publishing. And mainly all these journals are from the academic institutions. So many of them, what they do is that they fall on the. So let me talk about the issue of the softwares and the DOIs and all other areas. So for instance, in terms of infrastructure, and many of them don't use an online publishing platform. Few of them that use them online publishing are the ones that we identify, which are like the 30 of them, where they use OGS, and they have also subscribe to the DOIs from some of them. Many of them are from the Crossref, and then some of them are falling on AJO, the Africa Journal online platforms, to give them the DOI, the persistent identifiers. In terms of the staffing, I will say here that it's all voluntary. Many of them are voluntary, and just few of them that are using is part of their research work, of their job description or job plan or job responsibilities. So, for instance, some few of the institutions have employed staff in that journal office, where they have a budget, they have a plan, they keep publishing. However, the online platform that they use is not that very reliable. It's not that very reliable, even though the OGS platform is working, but it's not that very. And then still, many of them still move away from the online submission to sometimes email submission and emails. Some of the authors submit their manuscript sometimes email, because the problem is that sometimes they submit on a platform, it takes a long time for them to be responded to. Sometimes they don't respond to it at all. And so these are some few things that came up when we were doing the survey. So now, as I said, these journals are fully funded by their institutions. Almost all of them, the ones that we are talking of, the 30 of them, all of them are funded by their institutions. And then some of them, those who also work there, they do it voluntarily, but mainly also some of them also use it for promotion, more or less. So if you're an editor, or if you're a reviewer, or if you work with them, do some kind of any work with the journal, you can also use it for promotion. There were some few challenges, which I've even mentioned one already, but there's this other financial support that I think that they need seriously. The financial support is lacking, and then the issue of the incentives for editorial team is also another thing that we also identified. So, I mean, of course, in an academic environment, you don't review to be paid, but some of the editorial members, and I mean, were requesting for some of these, some from few incentive. It could be money, it could be any other thing, but nothing like that was being given. Then the fact that there's this high attrition rate, review attrition rate is another challenge that we also was identified. And then the issue of the visibility and attracting more submissions. You see, because there's a problem with the issue of when they submit some of the journal, when they submit the authors submit papers to their platform, it takes a long time. And then many of them are also using the OGS platform very well. There was an issue of the visibility challenge where they attract very less papers. For instance, especially if the researchers are unaware of the existence of their the indexing platforms where it has been indexed, it becomes a problem because some few things that we found in the survey was that many of the institutions have a criteria for promotion, so promotion criteria where they have a list of journals that researchers are supposed to publish in. So those journals need to be indexed in a particular platform, on a particular platform. So if they check your journal that is not indexed in any other platform, it becomes a challenge. So some of these journals, Diamond OA journals that are in the country, few of them are on AJOL, and we use AJOL as one of the indexing platforms for some of the institutions. Use AJOL as one of the indexing platforms for assessment. So once they see this on AJOL, it's on DOAJ, it's on Scopus, they deem it as a very good journal, and therefore you can use it for promotion. So basically, that's the state of the overview of the state of the issues in Ghana on the Diamond OA publishing. And so there are some few things that I don't want to waste much. I mean, it's just talk too much, but there are some few things that in terms of what can be done, we realize that even though CALIC, the Consortium of Academic Research Libraries, have done a lot of training, advocacy building, and all those stuff, there's still awareness that we need to create for this OA, Diamond OA to be fully functional and to be fully known in this country. Awareness creation is broad. And then the issue of capacity building is also another thing. We are creating capacity. We are also creating awareness and all that. And then because once we create awareness and we create capacity, I believe that I can see some few universities, when they do this, the survey, we also notice that some of the universities don't have OA policy written, a well-written OA policy. And therefore, I think there's an area that we can also help them to come up with an OA policy. Those who have the OA policy have also enshrined it in their promotion criteria that when they are submitting your promotion dossier or papers for publication, few of them, they didn't give a percentage, but they say some of them or few of them should be published in the open access journals. So the policies, the training, the awareness creation, capacity building, all these are things that was identified that many of these journals need to improve the Diamond OA in the country. So the policies and the strategy, we realize we can use it at the general level. We can also look at it at the institutional level and also look at it at the national level. You get it? So but one of it, at the national level, for instance, we thought that it would be very great for the Ghana Tertiary Education Commission to enforce the development and implementation of national policies that support OA publishing and also encourage institutions to adopt OA-friendly policies, thereby increasing funding initiatives, networking and collaboration, open science advocacy issues, research evaluation, and then the more of the education and awareness. So these are some of a few things that we came up, I mean, in the survey, and then how best we can promote Diamond OA in the country. All right. So, colleague, I don't know whether you're okay. I mean, we had me. That's the end of my presentation. Iryna, so please.
Thank you so much, Richard. That was very useful. Thanks a lot. Perhaps you could stop sharing your screen. And I would like to invite Ina Smith from Academy of Sciences of South Africa to share her South African perspective. And then we'll go to a Q&A. Over to you, Ina, please. We can see your slides.
Thank you, Iryna, and thank you to the organizers, to Africa Archive for this opportunity. It was an absolutely eye-opener to participate in this study, and it helped us to get our ducks in a row and have a better understanding of no-fee open access or diamond publishing in South Africa. I'm presenting on behalf of myself and Susan Veldsman, who is the Director of Scholarly Publishing at Academy of Science of South Africa. South Africa publishes 322 scholarly journals, and out of these 322, 192 are open accessible. In other words, more than 50%, which is great. 81 are diamond open access journals, if you can, and if you see, if you refer to the block here to the right, and 111 are gold open access journals. So the remainder of the journals, 130, are subscription-based journals. Some of the subscription-based journals in South Africa are thinking about switching to open access models, including diamond open access. At the same time, there are journals who want to switch to ABC, from diamond open access to ABCs. In fact, we've learned about 4 journals who made the switch since we conducted this study, which is a bit disheartening, was a bit disheartening to learn. So 34 of the 81 diamond open access journals from South Africa completed this survey, contributing to 17.09% the overall study. We've made an extract of some of the highlights we found. Most journals, in fact, 9 out of 17, if you look at the orange bar, have a team of 2 to 5 people, including roles like editors, assistant editors, and administrative support. This team size is a good size, and it helps manage the editorial work efficiently while maintaining high quality standards. In terms of the number of editorial board members, it varies. The one journal reported having 47 editorial board members, which is huge, while the journal with the fewest editorial members reported a maximum of 5 editorial members. In terms of institutional support, a good number of journals, 9 out of 17, receive free facilities and premises. And I suspect those are the universities with libraries hosting PKP-OJS. And that number of universities have grown. In fact, the major research intensive institute or universities in South Africa all now offers a library hosting service using OJS. So these journals using free facilities and premises from the hosting institutions saves money and can focus on the actual job in terms of journal activities. Support for these journals goes beyond just providing space. 8 journals also get essential IT services like website development and maintenance from their hosting organizations. And additionally, 6 journals receive help from their HR, financial help, and legal services, while 5 of the journals get service salaries for permanent staff and 4 for temporary staff. 8 journals reported having a dedicated unit overseeing the journal's activities, which is very positive, with some people being employed and some serving as volunteers. As far as collaboration amongst journals, I have a suspicion that some of the journals did not interpret this question correctly, since they referred more to collaboration with the hosting institution when it comes to communication, marketing, etc. But nonetheless, the survey showed that many of the journals work together in different areas. Most of them collaborate on communication services like marketing, spreading the word, and managing social media. 6 journals also work together on IT services such as submission systems, platform development, and website management. The study also showed that the survey journals use different ways to fund their work. 5 journals get regular, ongoing financial support from their main institution, which provides stable funding. And I also suspect those were the universities. Another 5 rely on partial funding from their institution, which is less consistent. Some journals also make money through advertising, charging for pages, and receiving donations from professional groups, showing a team effort. And a few journals receive one-time grants from their publishers, highlighting the need for partnerships and outside support, not relying on their home institution only. Although 13 out of 17 journals reported stable funding during the time of the data collection, 6 indicated the need for long-term funding for additional capacity, and especially in the form of people, human resources. In terms of journal technical infrastructure, many of the surveyed journals, in fact, 8 out of 17, fully outsource with technical maintenance and upgrades. Most of the journals support online publishing workflows, with 5 partially using online workflows. Also, some using emails to correspond with the journals, rather than just using the online workflows such as offered by PKP-OJS. I also want to mention here that most journals have editorial policy guidelines, in fact 15 out of the 17, and 14 out of the 17 apply a double-blind peer review process. And a large majority of the journals, once again 15 out of 17, use Crossref DOAJs, embrace ORCIDs or Open Researcher and Contributor IDs, and also use PKP Open Journal System to manage the website for the journal, as well as the journal management work or the editorial workflow in the back end. And of course, a 2-in-1 solution through PKP-OJS, which is great. Financial constraints, as with the other presenters of the other countries, are a major issue for Diamond Open Access journals. 12 out of 17 indicated financial constraints, which impact their ability to cover operational costs and sustain long-term viability. 9 journals out of the 7 also struggle with a lack of human capacity, affecting their ability to manage submissions and other responsibilities. Lastly, in terms of the journal component of a study, the survey responses emphasize the importance of securing dedicated long-term financial support, rather than just short-term funding to help journals grow, especially by hiring more staff. In the second instance, and one journal also mentioned the need for more time, additional time, and less pressure from teaching undergraduates and supervising postgraduate students. So combining your undergraduate and postgraduate workload with publishing and managing a journal and editing a journal is quite a big ask. Many journals also indicated that they want to keep up with the latest developments in scholarly publishing. However, the high costs of adopting new technologies, often based in Europe or the USA, are a significant challenge for South African journals. A recommendation from the study is that journals should consider acknowledging the work done by specific editors and other volunteers, since it's not sustainable to rely on volunteers only. And also, journals should be encouraged to develop journal sustainability plans. And our suspicion was that many of the journals did not have an idea of what sustainability plans entail for journals. So maybe there's an opportunity for training in that regard. Now, moving to the second part of the report, where the focus was on journal portals, or what we also refer to as platforms. When ISAF was approached by EIFL for assistance in researching the diamond open access publishing landscape in South Africa, it initially lacked comprehensive knowledge of the existing open access portals in the country. So we conducted a thorough desktop study to identify such portals. And as I said, many from universities and university libraries specifically. We identified 25 portals in South Africa hosting open access journals, although not exclusively limited to diamond open access journals. The URLs for these journals, along with their respective managers, were pinpointed, and we now have a better way of communicating with those. The EIFL project questionnaire was dispatched to the portal managers for conclusion, and 17 out of 25 of the portals which are listed here responded to this survey. Adding up the journals hosted by these different these 17 portals, it accounts for 923 journals. So there's far more journals than just the ones I mentioned since in the beginning. So 13 portals function with 13 of the 17 function within a dedicated unit within their respective institutions, such as libraries. 4 had no dedicated unit within which they do their work. As there are with journals, there's no incentivization for work done, except for salaries, where they employed, where they are employed to do the work. Fixed and permanent subsidy from the portal host organization and other are noticeably higher than others when it comes to funding for journals to make sure they are sustainable. And the majority of journals indicated that the majority of the portals indicated that they are funded, indexed by Google and Google Scholar, as you can see from the numbers at the top. Some portals also mentioned indexing by COAR South Africa, journals being indexed by COAR South Africa, WorldCat Base, COAR, and Open Air. There's all had challenges of some kind to get indexed in the high-profile indexes such as Web of Science and the rest, SCOSS. 4 out of 17 indicated satisfying the technical participation criteria to get indexed was a major challenge, and also satisfying the non-technical participation criteria. Most pressing challenges were in terms of the lack of human resources in the first instance, financial constraints, which is in a way linked to human resources, and then also providing adequate resources for the infrastructure and services. So to summarize, key challenges of Diamond Open Access portals in South Africa refer to financial constraints. Funding isn't always guaranteed, and there's no dedicated budget for expenditures, and the portals rely on open source software to manage expenses. And although open source software, we know it does not come as a free of charge solution, it has its costs. Rising hosting costs necessitate either adding more journals or adjusting fee for current journals hosted, and previous revenue streams are sometimes no longer available. So it's a very unstable situation. Funding is not guaranteed, to summarize that. In terms of infrastructure and technical supports, these journals that experience a lack of technical infrastructure and expertise, and there's even limited understanding and utilization of the many tools available through OJS, and especially in the back end, utilizing it as a journal managing system and managing the editorial workflow. So there's clearly a need for training, additional training. Another challenge is to maintain high editorial services, high quality services, and a rigorous peer review. And we also know that many journals experience it as a challenge to secure reviewers to review manuscripts submitted to the respective journals. There's also a struggle among the portals to achieve sufficient visibility and discoverability. And with changes in editors and emerging editors comes training, which adds to the workload of the portal managers. Something to also keep in mind is financial implications when transitioning from a subscription to an open access model, where the journal has to cover all the expenses which require careful planning. And lastly, advocacy and support has also been mentioned as a key challenge on all levels. And in South Africa, open access, there's a few open access institutions with open access policies. The National Research Foundation has an open access mandate, but South Africa's open science policy, of which open access policy will form part, is currently before Parliament for approval. And lastly, my last slide refers to the needs and strategies to advance Diamond open access in South Africa. There's a pressing need for infrastructural improvements, such as implementing a comprehensive search facility across all African portals or platforms, discovery service. This is crucial for improving accessibility to scholarly content. There's also a need for skilled human resources to support editors so that the editors don't have to do all the work. I've referred to long-term funding for sustainability, infrastructure development and more. And it seems as if in Africa there's a growing recognition that peer reviewers need to be compensated with a minimal fee, or at least receive a small kind of incentive to attract more reviewers. Another suggestion was that making available a template for layout editing for all journals should reduce publication fees. offering free access to services like DOIs and for African journals can enhance accessibility and scholarly integrity. And from the previous presentation, we could see that there's some journals that have not implemented digital object identifiers yet. There was also mentioned that the establishment of a national instance of PKP-AJS could centralize resources, skills, and funding, leading to more collaboration and efficient operations across all that publish or host journals via PKP-AJS. Another need is to raise the awareness about Diamond Open Access. I think there's great familiarity with what is green open access and gold open access, but not so much about Diamond Open Access. Political support in the form of policy, as I've mentioned previously, and commitment is required. Toolkits for advocacy and initiatives to increase the visibility and accessibility of journals can further support the growth of Diamond Open Access publishing in South Africa, and setting up a Hello Africa portal for indexing with the necessary support services, for example, PKP-AJS, can perhaps contribute to sustainable Diamond Open Access journals on the continent. Thank you very much on behalf of Susanna and myself. Thank you, Iryna.
Thanks a lot, Ina. It was excellent. So what else to expect from us in the coming months? In September, we are launching a community of practice for Diamond Open Access publishers in Africa with WACRAN, and this will be an open collaboration space to learn together, to share experiences, and also to be that collective advocacy voice on the continent around no-fee open access publishing. AGIL will be exploring strategies to flip from article processing charges to Diamond. And as you heard today, there is also a need to flip from subscriptions to Diamond, and also even from print to online and Diamond. And we will also consider that and try to support that. And in terms of funding, we will be releasing new calls for funding. So one of them will be very similar to the call we had earlier to support no-fee open access journals, and then we'll also offer support to those who would like to flip. Expect some more news from us, and apologies for speaking a lot. Now I think it's your time to ask your questions, and thanks a lot for your questions in the chat. And thanks a lot, Joe, for answering many of them already. So I don't know, maybe over to you, Harold, or...
Yeah, thank you so much, Iryna and colleagues. That was quite insightful. I think it's quite clear that we have gotten a glimpse of the landscape of the Diamond Open Access publishing that is there in several countries. I think the use cases, I mean, the case studies were quite insightful. To begin with, I think we have a question in the chat that is coming from a standpoint of a researcher or a beneficiary of Diamond Open Access publishing. And the question is from David, who says, while I can't afford negating the bundle of benefits Diamond Open Access journals bring to the potential growth of scholarship in and from Africa, can today's presenters speak to some potential perils that come with Diamond Open Access journals, and how best should an African researcher and author, based on the African content, disseminate their scholarship away from the trappings of the neoliberal capitalist modes of knowledge dissemination? extending or morphing. Sorry, this is quite a long question. Extending or morphing into fee access today, into no fee access today. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks a lot for that question. Would any colleagues like to start answering it? It's a long one, and
You can give it a try.
yes, please. Thank you.
To begin with, open access is one typical example of moving away from neocolonialism, if I may say. This is why you find that open access is predominantly supported by the global south in the developing countries. And the moment a researcher moves away from closed access to open access, it's one step in the right direction. And then the second issue is to believe in ourselves as researchers. The perception that there are so-called top-tier journals and so-called low-tier journals is something that is often supported by the researchers themselves by shunning use of the open access journals. In fact, the moment researchers support closed access journals, they are actually perpetuating the colonization, if I may say. So the first thing is to stand tall and walk tall and resist the existing structures which are unfair and are making the ground uneven. And then secondly, when it comes to ensuring that whatever has been published on open access is readily available, the first thing is that anything on open access is readily available. It is our responsibilities as researchers, readers, librarians, and so on, to share this content and to share it with confidence, to say, I have my article available on an open access platform, which is on Ajo, which is on DOAJ, and so on, rather than to boast to say, my article is on this top tier. I'm not going to mention, in the interest of ethics, to mention any of those so-called top tier publishers and so, or platforms. But you find researchers are not confident to say so. And then we have so many other platforms that can be used to publicize or to promote our research output. They include our social media platforms, ensure that you've got good social media platforms, Facebook, X, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn, academia, ResearchGate, and so on. These can also be used to publicize your research output. More so, other platforms like Google Scholar, where you can also showcase your publications, can be used. And then as researchers, please share your research output with fellow researchers, with your classes, with your students, and so on. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Blessing. I think, Iryna, perhaps you can speak to some of the perils or some of the threats that face researchers when it comes to engaging Diamond Open Access journals or publishing with Diamond Open Access journals, or perhaps address some misconceptions that are there in that regard.
Thank you. I think one of the issues is that if you, as a researcher, have specific requirements in which journals you have to publish in order to get your PhD or in order to get promoted, then you should check whether Diamond Open Access journals are among those journals, and if they are among those journals where you will get all the credits you need for your research career, then I would say go for publishing in those journals. But there might be Diamond Open Access journals which are not considered for promotion or for PhD defense in your institution, and then if you make publication choice in a Diamond Open Access journal, you might suffer a bit in your career progression, and you don't want to suffer. And then for that, the strategy might be to publish in a subscription-based journal, or maybe subscription-based journal, but make sure that you make your preprint available, the versions that you submit to a journal, and also check the journal policy and try to make your also accepted manuscript available in the repository. Preprints could be posted on preprint server. Also accepted manuscript could be made available via institutional repository or Africa Archive or any other repository you have in mind, and then at least you would ensure open access. There might be some specific agreements negotiated for you as a researcher from specific country about publishing for free in the journals the charge article processing charges. So also make sure to check that if you already know the journal where you would like to publish in. But otherwise, I don't think there are any specific issues around Diamond Open Access journals, except maybe not being so recognized in research assessment and promotion.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that clarification. I hope, David, your question has been addressed. We have another question from Peter Kinyua, who says, what does free access to similarity check mean with respect to open journals? I believe that was supposed to be Diamond Open Access journals.
Maybe Peter could clarify a bit that question, because similarity checks are usually is one of the services that Crossref provides for the journals that are members of Crossref. And as far as I understand, similarity checks are not covered under free membership. Joe posted earlier in the chat that some African countries are eligible for free membership in Crossref, free DOIs in Crossref, but unfortunately they can't benefit from other services that Crossref provides for free, such as similarity checks. But we noticed that many journals, many Diamond Open Access journals that took part in our survey, and also those that submitted proposals for our call, they use plagiarism checker tools, and those tools are usually provided by the institutions or they pay for them. So I would say that in terms of quality of publishing, there is no difference between Diamond Open Access journals and other open access journals or subscription-based journals. But maybe if I misinterpreted the question, you could write a little bit more.
Yeah, does that answer your question, Peter, or would you like to have the opportunity to clarify your question? Yeah, whilst we're waiting for Peter to clarify, I think we can take a hand from the audience. We have got one hand from, forgive me if I butcher the name, but Maditsipi. You can talk, Maditsipi. Just unmute and then you can ask your question.
Good day or good morning, everyone. I am so sorry. I raised this hand by mistake. So sorry. My apology.
No, you have to ask a question.
It was a mistake.
No worries. So we know that it often happens. And thanks for joining today.
Yeah, no worries about that, as Iryna has said. Iryna, perhaps I can also pose a question that we did notice that the state in the report, the state of the Diamond Open Access journals in the various countries do differ. Are there some factors that you guys have identified that can be applied in like across the countries? For example, what the various stakeholders can do, for example, in terms of governments and universities and the like, to try and improve the state of Diamond Open Access publishing in the countries where it is lagging behind?
Maybe I can start by saying that we mentioned that diamond open access publishing is more equitable, but in order to be able to practice this equitable open access publishing, you need to have some funding. And we do understand that those countries that are better off in terms of research support, those countries where universities are well funded and could allocate funds to publishing activities, they're doing better in diamond open access publishing. And we do acknowledge that there are many countries in Africa that are struggling with publishing without charging article processing charges, because journals need to have money to survive. And it was especially sad that if we look at Francophone countries, there are many countries where we couldn't identify diamond OA journals, and some people who contributed to country reports are here today on the call, and they could confirm that some actions should happen on institutional and national level to launch or flip those journals that charge fees to become diamond. And we're working with COMES, which is a regional body for Francophone Africa, to develop strategies how journals from the region would be published without asking authors to pay. We would also like to see some kind of Pan-African action around supporting diamond, and that's a challenge that we'll take with AU, African Union, and African Union Commission, and also other bodies, and also regional bodies, because I don't think it will be enough if only institutions and governments pay. I think some kind of action also needs to happen, at least politically, on the African level. As in Europe, European Commission said that equitable, no-fee open access publishing, non-for-profit open access publishing is a priority for the continent. It would be good to have similar statements from Pan-African bodies that we could build on, and that would also be supported with budget commitments, if possible.
Yeah. No, thank you for that. Peter is now able to speak. I think, Peter, you can go ahead and unmute and clarify your question.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Harold, and colleagues. My question was guided by the last presentation, and it was on there was a statement: free access to similarity check, and my first thought was that either ODS or something else provides a similarity check other than use of Turnitin or drill bit for checking and for scanning plagiarism. However, through the answer and feedback, I now understand that Crossref also provides services on similarity index. And I'm also aware, further from this feedback, I'm also aware and from experience that institutions that support research, open access, diamond, for this matter, also have the mandate or responsibility to offer similarity check. That one is well understood. However, I have a question now that I have a chance to comment. If my question is, if I want to have my article indexed in either Scopus or any other indexing platform, what would be the process for for me to have my article captured in or indexed in, for example, SCOSS. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Peter. You have to publish with a journal that is indexed in SCOSS, because SCOSS doesn't index individual articles, it only indexes journals. You have to check which journals in your field are indexed there and publish. But if it's not a requirement for your research career to publish to get index in SCOSS, then there are other wonderful indexes of open access journals you should consider, such as Directory of Open Access Journals, and you can use it to look for open access articles in your area. You can also find journals to publish in which are strong and don't charge article processing charges. Age-old is an African platform that is good to check for African journals that are strong, and you can also see whether a journal charges any fee or not. And what we're also seeing globally, that institutions, governments are moving away from journal-based metrics, from journal impact factors, and they're looking at much broader range of metrics, and they're changing the criteria. So I hope that maybe in a couple of years' time, we won't be talking so much about SCOSS, but we'll be talking about other community-run, non-commercial services that promote good research.
Okay. I think that was a good clarification, and also that addresses the question that Peter had. I think we only have time for one more question from the chat. That's coming in from Jordan, who says, "How do you guard against predatory publishing, given that this is free access?" Sorry, in case this has been answered already.
Predatory journals charge a fee. I haven't seen a single predatory journal that would publish for free, because that's getting your money is the main business for them. So if there is no money transaction during publishing operation, then there is no reason for predatory journals to exist. And that's exactly why Diamond Open Access journals are not predatory journals, because they're not charging any fees, neither to authors nor to readers. So by publishing in Diamond Open Access journals, you can basically safeguard yourself from publishing in predatory journals. Of course, there are issues of quality, and you have to assess a Diamond Open Access journal in terms of whether it's the best journal for your research area and for your particular research. But for sure, that Diamond Open Access journals are not predatory. And Ina, please.
If I can add there, Iryna, I want to refer everyone to the Directory of Open Access Journals, DOAJ. So if the journals, we encourage open access journals to apply for inclusion in the Directory of Open Access Journals. And through the DOAJ, we try to exclude and only have the trusted open access journals listed in the Directory of Open Access Journals. Before being listed in DOAJ, those journals are all open access journals are evaluated and scrutinized. The evaluators look at the content, whether it adheres to certain criteria, and so if a journal, an open access journal, is listed in the Directory of Open Access Journals, you can accept that it is a trusted open access journal and not a predatory journal. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's also a good exercise for a journal, because if a journal can get indexed in DOAJ, then it will be very easy for this journal to get indexed in SCOSS.
Wow, we're getting so much interesting questions, and they keep on coming. I believe Jocelyn has raised her hand. However, before she speak, yes, Richard.
There's a very critical question in the Q&A, which I don't know whether you would like to. It's from Daniel Kaumu, I think.
Yeah, I was actually heading to that one. Okay, would you like to address it?
Well, I'm thinking that for a beginning publisher to gain trust and avoid being as so the question says that for a beginning publisher, they are usually not trusted by researchers since they are expected to be running predatory journals. What should a beginning publisher do to receive the trust of the researchers? And then the second question is, what kind of sensitization should be done for the research community to eliminate the mistrust for beginning publishers journals so they can support the starting publisher? So I would say here that for a beginning publisher to gain trust and avoid being associated with predatory journal, they must adhere to the best practices in scholarly publishing and also engage in meaningful outreach to the research community. So there are some few strategies that maybe I may share here. One may be the gaining trust from researchers, where you have to adopt high standards for peer review. You may have to gain maybe or join reputable journal associations like the COAR, the Directory of Open Access Journal, like the ORCID. All these are good platforms that you can join with your journal. You also have to also build a strong editorial board where you have to recruit experienced and reputable researchers to join or to serve on the journal editorial board. You must also ensure transparency, where you can provide clear information on publication fees and peer review process, promote open access policy responsibly, which you may have to look at that one. And then the issue of quality over quantity. This is very, very important. And then there are some few more things that you may also have to do in terms of the sensitization strategies for the research community, where you have to organize maybe some workshops, engage with academic institutions, and it goes on and on and on, and maybe develop clear communication channels and all those. So I believe by following these strategies, beginning publisher, I'm 100% sure, can gradually earn the trust of the community and build strong foundation for the journal. So that's my little contribution to this question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Richard. Jocelyn, just quickly, yeah, unmute and you can ask your question, Jocelyn. Jocelyn, are you there? Or is it a hand that is up by mistake as well? Okay, well, in the interest of time, I think first of all, allow me to thank you, Iryna, Milka, Aina, Richard, Blessing, for being here and providing such an insightful report. Also, allow me to thank the attendees of this webinar. The interest was quite high. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. I think we picked at about 118 participants. That's wonderful. We'll make sure that we share all the proceedings with you guys. And yeah, I think we can continue to engage. Allow me also to say that the Open Science webinar series is a series, and such there are more webinars that are coming after this one that are of a similar ilk. So let us all go to the webpage that I think Ebuka will share in the chat and also in the proceedings of the webinar, and register for the others so that we can continue to engage on this topic. I believe that there was a lot learned here, and I believe that there's a lot still to be learned in the upcoming webinars. As I said, the webinar is organized by Ubuntu Alliance and Access to Perspective as part of the Global Participation Program for ORCID. It is an Africa Archive Open Science webinar, part of the series, and a little about Africa Archive is that it's a digital repository that is open right now, and you can use it to archive all your preprints and also other materials that you may wish to publish. It will also be shared in the proceedings of this meeting. Yeah, Joe, thank you so much for sharing that. I think with that being said, I think we can close the webinar here. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending again, and I hope that we'll be able to see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks a lot for inviting us.
Thanks.
Very interesting
Goodbye.
conversation, very insightful. Thank you. Have a good day.